Dad, are we there yet?
Yeah, I'm bored. My Walkman batteries died.
I told you, at least another hour until we get to the beach.
I brought some candy. Who wants a butterscotch?
Stop touching me.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Mom, make him stop.
Quit distracting your father. You want a Hertz donut?
You got donuts? Ow! You hit me.
Hertz donut.
If you two don't settle down, I'm turning this car around. It's 6:30 a.m., Saturday, July 11th, 1987. My dad's been up since 5, packing our bright yellow Datsun station wagon for our summer vacation. The destination? The Jersey Shore. Yes, that Jersey Shore. Long before some stupid MTV show was my Jersey Shore. Cape May, New Jersey, to be exact. Same place, 4 years running. I don't want to sound ungrateful, Tim, but Cape May to a 12-year-old isn't exactly Disneyland. I packed my cassette Walkman and every Weird Al tape I had. I looked back and threw in my Hall & Oates H2O album for good measure. I felt lucky to have a Walkman. I could laugh at My Bologna, Another One Rides the Bus, eat it, and like a surgeon all day long. A 3-hour traffic-laden trip in a car without air conditioning or an iPhone would probably kill my son. But it was just business as usual in the 1980s.
Sounds about right. I have those same memories of, getting up early and my dad packing the car. And, we had a variety of different cars that we took over the years.
Yes.
The one that I think sticks out the most is we had a Buick estate wagon. It was a big tan boat of a car with wood paneling on the side. And,
a Woody.
Yeah, it had the seat in the back that pointed the opposite direction.
Oh,
so
nice.
if you're lucky enough to be in the jump seat, you were staring at traffic.
Yeah.
Just staring at people uncomfortably for, hours and hours.
That's so funny. Did you do the thing in the car, when you're traveling down the highway? And I don't know if they do this anymore. When you see a trucker and you do like this kind of like, pump the arm fist thing. And if you were lucky enough, they
back. Yep. Oh, yeah.
And that was like the excitement of the trip.
Yeah. That and checking license plates from different states.
Yes.
Just real basic stuff. Putting your arm out the window and letting it sort of flow in the wind a little bit. Just real simple stuff to keep you occupied.
Right, because if you had a Walkman or remember those little Tiger games?
Oh yeah.
If you had a couple of those, but after about 15 minutes it was
yeah. And I mean, going back even further, when we were younger, we just had Matchbox cars. We'd sit in the back, and
that's right.
There was a point where we had it was an International Scout. It was kind of similar to like a Bronco. And so it just had like a steel floor in the back, and we just put down some like sleeping bags and a couple Matchbox cars, and we just play Matchboxes in the back of the Scout. And as we drive up to New York when we were really young, my grandfather had a cabin up.
Oh, cool.
The St. Lawrence Seaway is sort of it connects the Great Lakes up in New York, and so we'd go up there in the summer and go fishing and stuff. And so we spend the entire drive playing Matchbox cars.
No seatbelt.
No.
Just laying down on the floor.
Yeah. We'd bang our head off of the the wheel well, the metal wells of the back wheel, clang into them if there was a sharp turn or something. But it was all fun. So
it was, and we thought it was pretty good then too, right?
Oh yeah. And like you said, no air conditioning, just a little bit of breeze coming in through those windows, and that was the extent of it.
Yeah.
And then you'd hit that summer traffic where the car would not be moving, and
no breeze,
just no breeze, and bacon in a steel can,
sweat pouring off your head.
Good times.
It was good times though. At the end of the day, we entertain you. I guess you just adapt to what your reality is, and if you have a Matchbox car or if you have an iPhone 10, that's what you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're in the beginning of summer vacation now, and I think it's been 5 days into summer vacation, and my kids already come down and said, "Dad, I'm bored."
Doesn't take long.
It really doesn't. No.
Yeah. And we went to the Jersey Shore just this past week, and even at the beach with all kinds of things to do, the I'm bored definitely came up once or twice. So.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you did a cabin up at?
Yeah. My grandfather he retired pretty young. I think he was like 55, and he and my grandmother like traveled the entire country with a camper.
Oh, cool.
And then they had this cabin up in New York, and we'd go up there and fish off the dock, and he'd take us out in his rowboat, and we would go fishing. And it's a passageway for giant like ocean liners and stuff to get around the Great Lakes. And so we'd be out, and you'd get in the wake of one of these gigantic rowboats just pitching and up and down. And it was as a little kid, it was pretty intense, but it was a lot of fun, and definitely left an impression, because I'm just talking about it now. But it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Did you get good fishing?
Yeah, we'd catch pike and perch, and my grandmother she'd cook them up for us. And
so you did eat them?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we ate them. It was fun. The other memory that sticks in my mind is there was a lot of garter snakes up there.
Oh, sure.
And my grandfather would pick them up by the tail, and he'd spin them, and he'd throw them. So it sticks in my mind. And he also had a telescope up. They had like a 2-story, in the cabin with a telescope, so you could look out through the bay windows and see the ships going by and stuff. That was a lot of fun too.
That's very cool.
Yeah. How about you? What was the favorite parts of going to the Jersey Shore?
We always went to Cape May for the most part, and it was okay. I mean, the best part was just walking with my brother alone, like, without parents.
Mm-hmm.
They had like 2 short little boardwalks. So just going over there and playing arcade games, it's not like a traditional Jersey Shore boardwalk where there's like shops and things like that. It was very limited, but it was cool just to be on your own and to have like, somewhere along the boardwalk, wherever we were staying, at the time, just to know that's where you were, and you just go up and down looking at cute girls.
Yeah, and we would go to the Jersey Shore too periodically. We'd go to Seaside Heights. Oh, yes. And, for like day trips and stuff like that. And so I remember that, experience of being at the shore.
Sure.
And the ice cream, we'd get, a twist maybe. I don't remember if Coors was around then or not, the orange and vanilla. But I know at some point when we got older, I do remember getting the twist ice cream with the orange sherbet.
Nice.
And, like some pizza or something. So.
Yeah, I grew up where Seaside was the closest beach in Jersey, so it was only about 45 minutes away. So there are lots of times when I was a little kid, my dad would put us in the car. We'd drive there for the day, go to the beach, eat some pizza or whatever on the boardwalk, and then shower off in those public showers, and then go home again. So I remember that frequently. And that was cool. It was nice to, you always think of the beach as being far away as a little kid. And then when your dad would be, surprise you with such a cool thing, you just were so excited to go.
Yeah. And I think mini golf was always sort of like a touchstone for us everywhere we went. We'd play mini golf at the shore, and, we went to other, we'd go to Virginia and Cape Cod and different places, but we always would find the mini golf, and that was part of it.
Yeah, I've done a lot of mini golf with my kids. Yeah. Now, as we were fortunate enough that when I was a little kid, the first time we went to Cape May, we stayed at a motel, and then my parents did better financially, so every subsequent year kind of got a little upgraded, and then for a while we went to 2 years in a row. Wow, we went to Busch Gardens. In Virginia. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever been to Colonial Williamsburg and/or Busch Gardens Williamsburg.
Yeah. We must have probably crossed paths, because there was a bunch of years where we did the Virginia Beach thing as well, and we camped a lot when we were kids. So there was a campground that you could. It was on the bay side down in Virginia, where you could camp like almost on the beach. Which was a lot of fun. And then, we'd go over to Colonial Williamsburg and do the tours, and the sitting on cannons was also something. I remember we would end up at all these like forts in various places, and my parents would make my brother and I sit on a super hot cannon.
I was just gonna
take a picture.
Get a little burn mark on your thigh. Yeah.
And then obviously Busch Gardens was a blast, going to the park. And I remember one year we went, they had just opened a ride called the Big Bad Wolf. You remember that?
I do.
Yeah, and it was going too fast They had to slow it
really?
down. So we got a bonus day. They let us come back the next day. And like looking back on it now, I'm like, the day before, no one could ride it because it was too fast.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we're like the first ones in line to like, yes, let me ride the ride that's too fast. But there was a part, I don't know if you remember this, that you came down the steep hill and the carts would swing out super wide.
I do.
And you'd go through these two pillars as you kind of weave through there.
Yeah.
And knowing that the day before had been closed because of speed, my brother and I were like, I wonder if that's where the problem was. But yeah, that was great going to Busch Gardens.
And as much fun as Cape May, New Jersey was, like Colonial Williamsburg made that look like a hot, Caribbean cruise. I like history, don't get me wrong, but as a kid, Colonial Williamsburg was the worst.
Yeah. It's like you're counting the minutes until you could leave so you could go do the fun stuff.
Yeah. My dad's all interested in how how the blacksmith is making the tools, and it's 1 billion degrees out, and we're in a place with this furnace because my dad's interested, and I'm like, oh no.
And there always seemed to be a fire at every little setup that you went through. There's like, and this required a fire, and this required a hotter fire, and this one we're going to step into the fire. Oh, great.
Yeah. The best part was just when they fired the guns and the cannons. That was like, all right, that's not so bad.
Yeah. Is that a hot cannon? Can I sit on that one?
And now we're going to show you how they weave their clothes. But first, a dyeing lesson. We're going to dye these clothes. I'm like, oh,
well,
no.
My brother and I dye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next day we'd go to Busch Gardens, which was amazing. So, you got to live. You got to do what you got to do.
And the thing that was interesting about Busch Gardens is that they had a lot of like shows and stuff like that, which, as a kid, we were like, let's do the rides. But then it would get so hot, you'd actually welcome those shows because you'd walk through and just blast of cool air, the air conditioning. You're like, all right, I can do this. I can watch a show. So I can watch some show tunes if I get to cool off.
Something where I'm not in the blazing heat of Virginia. Yeah. I remember we must have gone around the same time because the Big Bad Wolf was the coolest ride. I used to be so big into roller coasters. And then, do you remember Drachenfire?
Oh, yeah.
They were really good roller coasters at that place.
I also remember there were characters that were like at the park, not like Disney characters like dressed up, but just people that would try to encourage people to do different things.
Oh, really?
And I remember there was it was like a medieval show or something like that. Yeah. And they just weren't getting a lot of people interested. And so this like Barker, who was, trying to get people to come to the show, he starts yelling, "Free money in here, free money." And like my family, we thought this was hysterical. So like for the rest of the trip, we would just walk around going, "Free money in here." And to this day, like, I can see my siblings and be like, say free money. And they're like, they know exactly.
And they get it.
About.
Yeah.
So.
We make fun of my dad. We had stopped at a rest stop, on the drive down. And, we went back or whatever. Like, we went back to the car. We're waiting for my dad. And it's like taking him a while. We're like, what, what's going on? So he gets back in the car and he's laughing. And we're like, what happened? And so he was going to the bathroom. And he saw people lining up. So he's like, well, this must be the line for the bathroom. So he's standing in line, but then they start herding these people onto a bus. And at that moment, my dad realizes he's with like a special needs group. And he didn't realize it. And so for years, we would always joke like, oh, Dad, don't get in the wrong line, Dad. We won't see you again. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah. And I mean, that was, part of the greatness of vacation is you'd always have those little goofy moments or stuff as a kid you wouldn't even necessarily think about like that it was stressful or anything like that, but right. Like going back and thinking through it, like we had so many mishaps, like I mean, I mentioned we would camp, so we always had the pop-up camper towed behind, and like the one year we had bikes on a bike rack on the very back of the camper, so we're cruising along and all of a sudden one of the straps gave loose and my mom's bike and my bike just go bouncing off down the road. And I mean, the sad thing is my mom's bike was just mangled. Like it was no coming back from it,
Yeah.
you know? And my bike, I had this Murray secondhand bike. It had like a banana seat on it that I'd taken off and put like a BMX seat on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a great bike, but there was a part of me deep down inside that was like, I would really love to get a new bike. And that thing, it probably rolled, I don't know, 30 times, and it had one little chunk out of the seat, and the rest of the bike, it was like no damage. It was like an indestructible bike. But yeah, I mean, those kinds of things, like as a kid, you're like, whoa, that was intense, you know. And meanwhile, my parents are probably freaking out,
Yeah.
you know, add to the stress of vacation. So.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So, and you know, with the camper, like we had, you know, one year, like a truck with some metal bars, like they flew off and like speared the camper.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like, again, as a kid, you're like, whoa, that was cool. And my dad was like, how in the world did that just... And, you know, just swerving around like cars that would stop short in front of my dad, and like a deer running out in front of the car, like just this chaos, but so fun, you know. As a kid, you're like, wow, that was cool.
That's cool. That's so funny. Yeah. And then we did a lot of my grandparents retired in Florida, so we would go down and usually visit them for a week down in Florida, which was really cool. It wasn't near Walt Disney World per se, but it was you know, on the coast, I think Fort Lauderdale maybe, or something like that. And that was always fun, just to go down, because, you know, your grandparents spoil the heck out of you.
Oh, sure.
You know. A swimming pool, they had, you know, in the retirement community, they had a swimming pool, which was nice because we didn't have one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and we went to Disney, I think I was like 13 or 14, and we camped. We drove all the way down there.
Wow.
And so the drive down, you know, it's probably 2+ days worth of driving. And I don't know if you guys ever drove this far south, but there was south of the border. Do you remember that? Yeah.
Oh,
and so you start seeing the south of the border signs like 150 miles from south of the border.
Yeah.
And so it became this thing where my brother and, you know, my sister, we were like, oh, this has got to be amazing if they're putting billboards up this far away from it. And then you get there like, oh, okay, well, here we are. It was just like fireworks and just random stuff.
Yeah. Did your dad get you fireworks?
I don't think we did. Yeah. I think at that point they were just like, they just wanted to get to Florida.
Sure.
Like we weren't taking any unnecessary stops, you know, just counting license plates and how many Stuckies did we drive by on the way.
Yeah.
And we'd stop at, you know, Howard Johnson's and, you know, Bob's Big Boy and do better.
Along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my dad wouldn't have bought fireworks if we had the opportunity. We never had the opportunity, but I know my daddy would not have done that.
It's funny though. It did remind me. There was a guy that lived across the street from us growing up that he had I want to say he had like an old Camaro, and he always had fireworks in his trunk that he would like sell to people.
Oh no.
Yeah. Super random, but
yeah. In high school, you know, we could do an episode on fireworks. But my buddy, he knew a guy who would I guess he would just go down there to visit friends or something, and he would always go to south of the border, and he'd be like, "What are we getting? Let's split a package." And you know, so we always had fireworks in high school. That, you know, it's fun.
Yeah, a couple of my friends, they always had like a couple packets of salutes. You know, just the little mini...
The bangers?
Yeah. Just light them off and pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, let's empty all of the gunpowder out of all, you know, 100 of them into something and then blow that up. So.
Who didn't do that? Right?
Yeah, good times. This is funny. Going back to Virginia Beach, I'm going to say this was probably in the 90s, so it was probably like early college. You know, I still was coming home for the summer, and you know, where my parents are gone, I'm like, sure, you know, we'll go. And so we're at Virginia Beach, and my hair, my hair was probably down to my shoulders in college. So I think my sister was like, we're going to put braids in your hair. So, you know, picture, you know, 20-some braids in the top of my head and like a checkerboard. No sunscreen on my head. So I burned a checkerboard into my scalp. All these silly braids. So,
that is hysterical.
Yeah. And I have my mom on the job to see if she can find a photograph of me with my braids.
I hope so.
Enjoy that.
That must have hurt.
Yeah, it was a little, you know, more painful than I think I was prepared for. But that's the price you pay for fashion. So
you know, you look cool. You look very cool.
Sure, I did.
I think I went. You said you went to Disney once. And you
Yeah,
camped out.
we went the first year we camped, and
Okay.
then we went back again when I was a little bit older, and we stayed in a condo,
Okay.
and I mean that was pretty cool, to stay in a condo. And I think it was the year I got my first CD player.
Nice.
So I had, or Discman, I should say.
Discman. Yeah.
And I had one CD for the entire drive down. So I listened to Candlebox.
My gosh, Candlebox.
That disc so many times. But yeah, it was awesome to have a Discman.
Oh, that's funny. We went down when I think I was like either 9 or 10, and we had gone to my grandparents, and then we drove to Orlando and stayed, I think, one night, maybe two. I think it was just one night, and we went to Disney for Disney World for like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
And I wasn't impressed. My mom brings this up to this day. She's like, all I did was pick apart every little thing. Like, if you're on the space rocket to the moon, I'd be like, oh, look, you can see light under the door. Or, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I'm looking up through the window and I'm like, oh, we're really only 2 inches under the water. Like, I was the worst kid. I think it was just because I had high expectations. Like, I was like, Disney World, this is going to be like truly magical, and stupid me is just picking out every little flaw,
Well, I think the year that we went, I want to say it was the first time. It was the first year that Disney's MGM Studios had opened.
Oh, okay.
And so that part of it was, like the Magic Kingdom was still, the Magic Kingdom from so long ago. And so I'm sure we were, like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Oh, that's the best.
Like, those kinds of things. But then MGM, they had like it was like the tour of movies throughout history kind of thing.
Oh,
where they had
okay.
all these actors and, segments from movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that really, as a kid, I was like, wow, this is really, really neat. But it was probably 2.5 or 3 hours we stood in the, Florida sun to get on that ride. And you're just, there's a point where you're like, we're an hour and a half in, you see you got another hour or more left. We're like, are we going to bail? Are we going to see this through? And needless to say, we saw it through, and 90 seconds later,
90 seconds
it's over. You're like, oh, let's go to Epcot Center and get something to eat.
Yeah, right. We've gone back a number of times with our kids. Helen, my wife, loves Disney, and so we've gone like 4 times or some ridiculous thing like that. And I don't know if you've been with the kids.
Yeah, we've gone once with the kids.
And like you're talking about lines, now they tell you like up to the minute.
Oh yeah, on the app you can track and see.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, let's run over here. There's only a 15-minute wait. Oh no, let's go over here. It's an hour wait, or whatever. It kind of helps a little bit, but
yeah. And rain's your best friend.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a bunch of years when we took our kids and they were a little bit younger, and so we had a rainy evening. And we had done the whole package. We were staying at one of the resorts, and we had the food plan and the whole thing. Yeah. So all of our meals were planned, and so we had a dinner reservation. And so we ate dinner, and it had been drizzling, and the park had kind of cleared out. We had our ponchos on. We were all set, and there was this. I think it was called Flying or something like that. It was like one of these 4D movie things, but you're in this like flying chair that would kind of soar.
Oh yeah, soaring.
Soaring. Yeah. And every time we looked at it, like during the day, it was like a 2.5, 3 hour long wait. And so that night when it rained, it was like 15 minutes, and we just ran through these. Like it probably took 10 minutes to run through the all the weaving of the cordoned off areas, for the line to get up, and we basically walked on, and that was pretty fun.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. But Disney overall, I mean, I guess I've been there 3 times, and. That last time we went with the kids, by doing so, we just like bought in. We're like, all right, Disney, you take the reins. We're just here, you know. And that part of it, we really did enjoy. Just like you don't have to think. You just enjoy. That they had a pool with like they played music underwater.
Oh yeah,
in the pool.
Oh, that's
it's
so
like
cool.
The Little Mermaid's playing while you're swimming in the pool. Which Nora just like lost her mind. She thought it was so cool.
Yeah,
and they were at that age where we stayed in the facility that was all about the Cars movies. So they had real life, real size, versions of all the cars, and Jack was, really into that. So
that is cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. When last time we went, they actually brought back, I don't know if you did this when you went, Michael Jackson's Captain EO.
Yeah.
And they brought it back for a limited time. I don't know if it was its 20th anniversary or something like that. And so I got to see it again since I had last seen it as a kid. And I was like, what a hot piece of garbage. And I believe it was made by Lucas and Spielberg. Like, they combined, and it kind of had that, totally 80s. If anybody wants, you should. I can't recommend it enough. Look it up on YouTube if it's there. It's got the weird, annoying, furry sidekick. It's got the kids and Michael Jackson singing and dancing, and it's very, very interesting. So I can't recommend that one enough. Maybe they'll bring it back at the 40th anniversary or something.
Any other destinations that you guys went to that were memorable?
No, that as a kid it was mostly the Jersey Shore, and then a couple of times to Busch Gardens, and then once to Disney World.
Yeah.
You?
I think one of the other ones that sticks out is we would go to Ocean City, Maryland, but we would camp on Assateague Island. Oh. So we're camping like basically out on the beach, and then there's wild horses like literally walking through the campground while you're.
Oh my gosh!
So imagine it's 90 degrees, no breeze at night, the sound of horses clomping by, and then it starts to rain. So now we're zipping up all of the windows in the pop-up camper. And we're just laying on sleeping bags that are like rated for sub-zero temperatures. So it's even hotter. You're just sweating, laying there in your underwear. But yeah, I mean, I'm painting it's not a sad picture, but it was really fun to to be out and see wild horses, and go to the beach, and then be able to go up to Ocean City and hang out on the boardwalk and all that fun stuff. So
that is cool. I've never camped on the beach. That does sound like fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, obviously, I haven't done it in a while, and I've gotten pretty comfortable with air conditioning, so I say that now. It may not be as fun as I remember, but yeah.
Well, that's good times. Looking back, everything seems so much better in the rearview mirror. And you're like, oh, I miss that.
Yeah. I kid with our son and daughter that we're going to take them on a classic like Brady Bunch vacation one year, where we find it really old like 70s station wagon. And no air conditioning, and just drive across the country and go see the
You need to find like those old Western motif towns.
Yeah. Well,
Dude Ranch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Drive down Route 66 and all that. So.
So Tim, another great thing about summertime, besides the absolute freedom to run around and do what you want with your friends, and then go on a vacation, usually to the Jersey Shore or some other destination, was other summertime activities. Whether it be maybe summer camp or specific things, there was always something special about the summer, and what were you going to do, and how were you going to maximize that time away from school. And one of the things I did every summer was a summer camp called the Tomato Patch at the local community college.
Nice.
And it was like 2 weeks kind of summer camp. Did you do any kind of summer camps like that?
When I was younger, I didn't do any specifically like that. When I was a little bit older, I did like some soccer camps and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I really enjoyed this particular summer camp because it was at a community college, and you literally would go from, like, you almost felt like a college student, and I was only like 12 or 13 years old, so it was really cool. You ate in the cafeteria, there was the school store, like, it was, you're like a little mini college student, which was lots of fun, and you get to, you would pick whatever courses you wanted, whether it would be, computers, they had a small little television studio in there, and so it was like just great exposure to number one, computers. Like, it was where I first really learned floppy drives and passwords and programming. It was so basic, but I mean 1985, 86, around there, but it was great exposure, and doing like, I've always been interested in movies and radio and things, and so you really got to explore that kind of fun stuff, and you had your summer friends. You got to meet a bunch of people that you were friends with for 2 weeks, which was cool.
Yeah. I do remember, I mean, obviously it wasn't summer camp, but my mom would buy these like packets of like summer activities, and I remember one summer, my parents were promoting the idea of us building a treehouse. And so we had like this old tree that like I think my dad and maybe my uncles or something had cut the top part of the tree off, so it was this base where the treehouse was going to be. And then they got us like an old shed that we were going to put up on this tree. Well, that shed never made it up onto the tree, but it sat in the part of our yard. And so I remember my neighbor, he was the one who really got into these activities. So we would sit in the shed, which didn't have any windows, and it was probably 120 degrees in there. But I remember him spending a lot of time on these, activity books and stuff. But anyway, that was sort of our summer camp, I guess. Pseudo school related activities that were masked in the idea of being fun.
That's like a little clubhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was good. I want to say my neighbors would bring over like Kool-Aid in a pitcher, and we made like a little bar in there, and we would serve each other Kool-Aid. And then like over the years, I think it was just a place that my parents would store old newspapers for recycling, and it just became like more insulation, so it got hotter in there. But yeah, it was fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a pool growing up?
When we were younger, we had like one of the. It was like a fold-up one that you'd like hold the sides up and then fill it, and then it'd maybe be about 1.5 foot high.
Okay.
And it'd get covered with like grass and everything because we'd be jumping in and out of it constantly.
Yeah.
And then when we were older, when I was like 13, 14, we got a pool. How about you?
Oh, you did? Oh, cool. Yeah, we had for I guess it was 3 or 4 years. We had an above ground pool, 5 feet maybe.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. For about 1.5 years. And then like come second year, you're like, well, you just kind of lose interest for some reason, I guess. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't very big, but
yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah. We had, my dad, when he was younger, he had helped my uncle install pools. And I guess, at some point, my dad had, talked about the idea of, putting a pool in at some point. So my uncle came one summer and helped us install an in-ground pool.
Oh, in-ground.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, it was awesome just to be part of that process of like them digging a giant hole in our yard and then, putting in the liner and all the sub walls and all the plumbing and all that kind of stuff. And then like it finally was done, and we're filling it from a stream that runs through my parents' yard. And so the water was not super clear because it's coming out of a stream.
Yeah.
And so the first probably month or so, we'd play this game where one of us would dive down in the deep end, put a Nerf ball down there, and then quick swim up to the top, and we'd all stand on the edge until one of us would spot the Nerf ball slowly floating up through the murky water, and we'd dive in and capture the ball. So, but yeah, it was a blast to have a pool. And be an in-ground pool. Is pretty nice too, so.
Yeah, it really does make a difference, in-ground versus above ground.
Yeah. So,
did you find out you had new friends as soon as you had a pool? All of a sudden, little Bobby comes over and it's like, "Hey, buddy Tim."
I mean, it would make sense that we would, but we lived, it was a non-working farm, so there was a lot of houses that weren't too close together where we lived. So we had like our immediate neighbors who lived right next door, and another guy who lived probably half a mile down the road or something, and that was about the extent of the kids that we hung out with because it was just too far away.
Okay.
So yeah, my friends from school, they'd come over once in a while when their parents would drive them over, but otherwise it was just the neighbors next door.
Neighbors.
So.
Oh, okay. Were they cool?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And what's funny is my brother was 3 years older than me,
mm-hmm.
and the boy who lived next to us, he was, I think, a year younger than my brother, 2 years older than me.
Oh.
And then his sister, I think, was 4 or 5 years older than me. So my brother and the boy, they spent a lot of time together, and I ended up hanging out with the girl who was 4 or 5 years older than me. And I mean, we all hung out together, but it was just funny that I was like always hanging out with with her.
Yeah. That is funny.
But yeah, I mean, having a pool was awesome. But we also, before that, we would go to the community pool. And, I mean, that was such a blast because you'd see kids from school that you wouldn't see otherwise all summer. And,
sure.
I'm sure,
We had a community pool But my mom only took us there like a couple of times. I don't know. I don't know. She just never took us.
Yeah, I feel like there's one summer in particular that I remember, like, we lived there, like, you know, multiple times a week we were over at the community pool, and you know, just again, sort of that freedom of, like, my mom was there, but we could run around anywhere inside the pool and to see friends, and you know, go to the snack stand and get like a, you know, a freeze pop, or, you know, some candy or whatever, and, you know, music playing on the PA system that's all distorted, and, you know, flock of seagulls, and, you know, Depeche Mode and all that, you know. I can still hear that gong gong gong, you know, of the Depeche Mode coming through the speakers. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did you guys have? I lived in, like, I would imagine, because we both were pretty rural. We did not have an ice cream truck.
Yeah, we didn't either.
Yeah, but when I would visit my cousin who lived near Princeton, and they had an ice cream truck. So every time we'd go there and the ice cream chick came around, I would, like, spaz out. I'm like, oh my God, somebody brings ice cream to your front door. And then I'd go bug my parents for, like, you know, 50 cents or whatever. And I'd go get an ice cream. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. And I mean, similar to that, like, now with our kids, when we go to the shore, you know, the Fudgy Wudgy is the whatever company that brings around the college kids that have, like, a freezer on wheels that they'll roll down the beach, and our kids would just, you know, you could hear them, you know, half a mile away, and the kids would be running up to us, I need money. And the only difference is where, you know, for 50 cents you could get an ice cream. Now it's like you need $5 to get it.
Of course.
But I get one, my wife gets one, the kids get one. It's like, if they're gonna bring it right to us, we might as well.
I never understood, like, nowadays, because, you know, you get ice cream for your kids, and, like, there's the SpongeBob or whatever it is, and, like, there's a gumball on the ice cream. I never understood who thought that was, like, a thing to do.
Well, and I don't know if you remember, Baskin Robbins back in the day had their bubblegum ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it was in Virginia when we'd go, you know, to Busch Gardens, there was a Baskin Robbins down there. And I was just convinced that if there was going to be gum and ice cream, I had to get the bubblegum. And so, you know, you're halfway through the ice cream, you get this wad of gum in the corner of your mouth. And it really wasn't good gum. It didn't really add to the ice cream. But I was, for probably 2 or 3 summers, whenever we went to Baskin Robbins, I'd always get the bubblegum ice cream.
Oh, that's funny. Weird stuff, right?
Yeah. But good times.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of the things that we liked, you know, maybe a little more 90s, we had talked about the Super Soaker, you know, with that being a Nerf Hasbro product. Yeah, I mean, we loved our Super Soakers.
Oh, yeah.
They were just fantastic. And but, you know, after about, you know, a couple of weeks, they started leaking, and you'd be like, I got to go get a new one.
Well, we had, you know, at our house now we have a pool, and the kids, you know, when they were younger, we always had one gun that was slightly better. Then we could have probably 15 of them, but there was always one that was way better than the rest. And so there'd always be that sort of battle over which one would pick the right gun that could actually fire, you know, 30 or 40 feet, where the other one needed like maybe 10.
5. Yeah.
But yeah. The phenomenon of the water gun. I mean, even going way back, you know, when we were really little, and you get they were clear colored plastic, and you know, maybe like 3 or 4 feet
if you're lucky, and they immediately begin leaking at the seam that went through the center of the thing.
Yeah. But you know, we probably had, you know, a dozen of them in various places. You know, and the hole to fill it was so small. You're getting, you know, just soaked by like 4 kids or shooting at you. You're like, wait,
I'm coming.
I'm not even close to being full.
And you had to get the little clear the plunger just in the right spot, or the water wouldn't go in.
To create a vacuum and the air would be stuck in.
But I did find out the inventor of the Super Soaker by the name of Lonnie Johnson. So we'll see if we can get an interview with Mr. Lonnie Johnson. We'll dig up some facts about him.
Yeah, I remember Jack was watching a YouTube video about him.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it's a pretty cool story. We should definitely come back to it and see if we can get Mr. Johnson on our show.
There we go.
Yeah.
We know Ren Gaillard.
That's right.
Hey Greg, since school's out for the summer, there'll be no report card for this episode. But if you do get bored, check out LatchkeyDads.com. for extended content and photos from episodes.
Nice. Tim, did you know that listeners should like, review, and subscribe to the Latch-Key Dads podcast?
No. But now I know.
No,
Now he's at the bottom.